Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this magical working that I'm about to share with you guys. I'm going to get into all the whys and whats of what I'm doing in a moment, but first I wanted to let you know that this is a collaborative video that I'm doing with Dawn Michelle over at Boho Tarot. So I will definitely have a link up in the cards and also in the description box down below to her video, because we are doing this project kind of together. The fun thing is that my part of this is a surprise. Her part of this, I already know what's happening, kind of. Still a surprise element, but let me tell you how this all came about. So quite a long time ago, I managed to get my hands on a copy of the original printing of the Mythic Tarot. Now, this is a deck that is absolutely beautiful. My lighting is a little yellow because I like the effect, but let me just make it a little more true to life for a moment so you can see these cards. So this deck is really, really beautiful, and it's based on Greek myth. But at the time that I got my hands on this, I managed to find it for, I don't know, around $20 locally. But you can tell even just by the color on the cards that this is a very well-worn deck, an old deck, and the cardstock is already incredibly thin, and mine is quite chipped around the edges. This is the 1986 version. That is the copyright that's on the cards. But I was chatting with Dawn Michelle because she had recently picked up a copy of this deck and was planning to trim it. And I said I'd been really wanting to trim mine, but I'm a little scared because this is an out-of-print deck. I had originally seen it trimmed in full by Nina over at Shuffle Tarot, and if I can find that video, I will link it for you in the description box. But it just looked absolutely beautiful trimmed. But I was just scared. So this deck's just been sitting, but the fact that it's kind of old and worn and chipped, it's just kind of, I love the feel of cards that are broken in like this. But it also, I needed to make it mine somehow, right? And I've been just scared. I've just been scared and intimidated. So I've just had it sitting. And Dawn's like, well, I can edge it for you, or I can trim it for you, rather. And I was like, okay, well, let's do a swap. So thinking about a swap, I said to Dawn Michelle, I was like, has anybody ever modified a deck for you? Like, I can modify a deck for you. And bless her heart, she was like, or we could do something else. She was totally open to it, to give her full credit. It was just kind of funny to me because I'm like, why would I trim a deck for Dawn Michelle? Like, she can out trim, out edge, out modify a deck that with me any day of the week. So I was like, so I think it was she that suggested first maybe something magical. So I will make her something magical and she will trim my deck. So after I'm done filming this video and creating the thing that I'm creating for Dawn Michelle, I'm going to be sending this deck off to her along with the special thing that I'm making for her, and when she receives it, she will be trimming my deck and filming that process, and then she'll send my trimmed deck back to me. So that is what we are doing. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be neat to see how this turns out, and I don't have to be the one to do it. So it's currently living in this little peggy bag because I don't have a box or anything for it, so I'll probably just ship it in its little home so that it stays nice and cozy and safe and protected. This is actually one of my very first peggy bags. And it was like this fabric. I think it's like almost got like a felt to it, and it attracts like freaking threads and like little dog hairs. Her other bags don't do that, but I can't part with this one because it's so perfect for the deck. Because look, it's like a black and gold, and the book is black and gold. I've managed to find a copy of the guidebook separately, actually. And you can tell this book is also very aged just by the color of the pages. Anyway, I'm going to warm up my lights again because I liked it better. More magic-y. Anyway, so these, well, not the book, but the deck is going to be going off to Dawn Michelle to modify. Let's talk about what I'm doing for Dawn Michelle. So in chatting with her, she mentioned that she was looking for something to help make her practice of reading for herself feel a little bit more ritualized, a little bit more special. And so she's like, maybe a candle or something. And I realized that what I wanted to make for her was an oil. I love crafting oil blends. And I wanted to make an oil that could be used in multiple ways, that could support her practice, that could create a ritual out of reading the cards for herself. So I wanted something that was very tuned into her specifically, so that when she's reading for herself, she can use this oil to anoint candles, she can use it to anoint her skin, if her skin is safe to do that with, or she can do a whole bunch of things with it. Oils to me are very flexible. You can put them in the bath, you can put them on candles, you can anoint objects, I like to, before I read, as I've talked about before with clients, I always put a little bit in the center of my palm, or my palms together, of a special oil that I set aside specifically for reading. So there's a few things you should know about this video. If I haven't mentioned it already, I don't think I have. It is currently Samhain, October 31st, 2020, and the full moon when I am filming this video. I've already cast a protective circle around the space that I'm going to be working in and done some of my private sort of prepping of the space off camera. But I have a whole bunch of things to show you and to talk about, and I'm going to bring you along with me as I craft everything. And it's quite involved because I'm making it for somebody else. I'm not making this to necessarily be a tutorial, although you are more than welcome to follow along and learn from this video. This is not the kind of oil that I would typically right out of the gate teach you guys how to do, because I've got a lot of different ingredients. You could do a much, much simpler version of this oil, and I would definitely encourage you to look at videos like my Body Acceptance Magical Anointing Oil, my Crank It Up Bridget Magical Anointing Oil, and some of my other oil videos you can find on this channel if you're looking for a slightly simpler recipe. I do have a tendency to overcomplicate things, but I had a lot of correspondences that I wanted to get in here. So with that said, I'm going to take you on a tour of everything that I have here on the table first. Then I'm going to take you through my ingredients. I'm going to talk about why I selected different things. And then I'm going to put everything together. So first things first, some tools. So I have my trusty marble mortar and pestle. I've had this thing for ages. It's very well used and well loved. I am going to be putting herbs together to create an herbal blend as part of crafting this oil for Dawn. So I wanted to have something here to mix the herbs in. I will use a mortar even if I don't need to crush things a lot. I'll use it to sort of magically imbibe it with my intention, right? So I will use either clockwise motions or counterclockwise, depending on whether it's drawing or banishing energies. But just the act of even just stirring with the mortar and pestle becomes a mindfulness practice all on its own. So I always have a mortar and pestle when I'm working with herbs. As far as what I have sort of on the table supporting this working, I've pulled in, this is actually a very special pot. See if I can pull this out without lighting things on fire. So this is actually, it's got some special herbs in the bottom, but this is a pot that had a special little plant in it that was gifted to me from a very, very dear friend who has many years ago now passed away. And and she is somebody that I consider to be a spiritual ancestor, somebody who's very important and impactful in my life. So when I'm working with ancestor energy, when I'm welcoming in ancestor energy to workings that I'm doing, I bring in this candle and candle holder. So that is what this is. This is bringing in that ancestor energy. And for the time of year and for the extra oomph and support, that is why I'm pulling in ancestor work. I've also pulled in my little portable sea goddess statue. This is just important for me as a nod to the mother deity that I work with. Up here I have just a little nod to Halloween. Oh, you can't see it, it's off camera. Let's just pull her in. This is just a little black pumpkin candle that I have just slightly out of frame. I'll probably pull it more into frame once I've gone through everything else. Over here, you can just see a bit of it. This is my little mini moon altar. So here I have the Astro Soul card from the Astro Soul deck for the full moon, just to anchor the energy of the full moon. It says energy, peak, harvest, blessings, and achievement. And this is just to, again, keep the focus on the fact that we are in a full moon right now. So that is just off to the side here. Oopsies. I have an herbal blend here that has some sage. I believe there's some yerba santa in here and some other things. I like to use herbal smokes to cleanse the space and my tools as I work with them. I also have a Palo Santo. These are just regular pieces of my practice here, so nothing groundbreaking there. All the ingredients. Okay, so a few things. So first of all, I have 3 containers because what I'm going to be sending Dawn, I'm going to be making an oil blend that's going to go in this largest bottle here. So this is going to be sort of the mother oil, the one that she can then do with anything that she wants. So she can use it for anointing, she can put it into other things. I've already taken the manufacturer's label off and there's a little bit of residue. Now I don't plan to label these bottles because I think actually labeling these bottles in a way that feels very personal to Dawn is going to be, I think, a fun part of the process for her, and she's got a very specific visual aesthetic. So I thought what I would do is craft the blend. She can choose to name it what she'd like to name it. She can create her own label and do it in a way that's going to really tie in and feel like hers, because that's the last step, right, is really making this her blend, her oil, her product, right? So here's the main oil bottle I'm going to be using, and I picked an amber colored bottle. It's a little less pretty aesthetically because you can't see everything in it as well, but if she's storing it in a room that gets a lot of natural daylight, I wanted it to be as stable as possible. So I picked darker colored containers for this. So that'll be the main oil. I've also gone ahead and picked up a roller ball so that she can have one for easy application. So I will fill the roller ball for her because I want to add its own goodies into it and have it all crafted and ready for her. Also, I don't think we have any label residue on this one. I think we're good. And then also a mister. So this is just a stainless steel little mister. It's got a great spray on it. So I'm going to also be making a room spray / aura spray for her to use out of this blend. So you're going to get to see me make a roller ball, an oil, and a spray. And I will be talking through the process of kind of what I'm using and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Again, be prepared for a long video because I have a lot of things to share. Let's talk ingredients. All right. So let's talk first. Oh gosh, I've got so much stuff here. I've got a little tray and I'm going to have to bring the tray here for working. Let's talk about herbs. Let's talk about herbs first. So I'm going to reach. Okay. So I am pulling in lavender. So lavender is going to be brought in to stimulate psychic awareness as well as psychic ability, which is something lavender is really good at. It's also going to be brought in to introduce a connection to the element of air and the element of water. And it's also got an association to the planet Mercury, which is going to matter when I give you an overview of the energies that we're dealing with. I also am bringing in the herb rose. This is just dried rose petals. So I'm bringing in rose for Venus energy. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Taurus is Dawn's sun sign. So I wanted to have some Venus Taurus energy in her blend to again, really code it to her. I'm also bringing in Blessed Thistle. Now, Blessed Thistle is one of the herbs that inspired this blend. It is specifically really good for emotional support, for helping to break any negative patterns or release sort of negative energy that may have gotten clingy in your life. And so it's a really wonderful blend for doing the kind of divination work that is based on personal growth and development, which I know is a huge part of Dawn's practice. So Blessed Thistle is going to be for that. And finally, as far as loose herbs go, I think this is the last one, yeah. As far as loose herbs go, I have some cinnamon. So cinnamon is here to introduce some fire element. It's also here to create some amplification of energies of the other ingredients. So cinnamon has a very kind of spicy, fiery sort of energy. It is going to bring in some of the element of fire. It also is associated with the sun, which is the ruler of Leo, which is Dawn's rising and moon sign. So I wanted to have both the sun, fire, be a pretty heavy element in the blend. So you'll notice that we've got a couple things that are element fire for that reason, or are associated with the planet, with the sun. So that is for that. And also I really felt like cinnamon would bring in a bit of that, again, that amplification or that spice that I feel like we really wanted. Oh, there's one more herb. I forgot. And orange peel. So I'm also going to be working with orange essential oil, which I'll show you in a moment. But the orange is being brought in for a little burst of positivity. So we bring in that sort of, we want to look at the positive growth opportunities within every tarot reading. Like, how can we benefit? How can we move forward? How can we grow? And I know that, again, that's a huge part of Dawn's personal practice. So I really wanted to work with that energy. And orange is also associated with the sun and is also associated with the element of fire. So we have both cinnamon and orange bringing that fiery sun energy. We have rose, which brings in the Venus energy, and also as the ruler of Taurus, which I really wanted to bring in. We also have the Blessed Thistle. Blessed Thistle is actually also a fire herb and is specifically associated with the planet Mars. And Mars, we're going to get more into planets here in a moment, but Mars is the card associated with the tower, and I wanted some tower energy in this oil on purpose because we want to work with the positive, empowering energy of the tower to help us break down old patterns and build new ones. And to me, that's a very important part of a tarot practice. I think it's good to work with that intense energy as long as we're doing it balanced out with the other elements and the other things. And again, lavender is earth and water. Was it earth and water? No. What did I write down here? Lavender is bringing air and water. Sorry. So we have air and water. And for earth, I've got another ingredient that's going to bring in more of the earthly element. So these are mostly, we have fire here, we have fire here, we have water and air, and I forget which element rose is associated with, but I brought it in for that Venus Taurus energy. So those are our loose herbs that we're going to be working with. For oils, yes, I'm grabbing a handful. As I mentioned, I wanted to bring in orange oil. I wanted the scent of this particular blend to be lavender and orange primarily. So the lavender oil is brought in for the same reason as the lavender herb, which I'm just like spilling things everywhere. The lavender is brought in for the same purpose as the lavender herb, so that air and water, is that it? Air and, why can't I remember that? Air and water. By the way, lavender is also bringing in the energy of Mercury. So, and again, this is all going to tie in a moment when I start to kind of group everything together for you. So that is why I'm bringing the lavender oil. The orange oil, as I mentioned, orange is bringing the sun and fire element. So I want those two to be the dominant scent of the blend. I've also brought in the element the essential oil sage. Sage is really wonderful in any kind of divination blend because of course it brings the purification, the cleansing. It also brings more of that connection to air element and is associated with the planet Jupiter. So I wanted to bring in that Jupiter energy to the reading as well. Finally, this is one of my favorite magical anointing oils I've ever gotten from a Witch's Moon box, and this is the Water and Earth oil. I'm going to be adding a little bit of this into the blend. It has a very, it's got a very fresh scent. I hope the scent comes through as an undercurrent to the lavender and the orange. You guys, I am not a perfumist, so I don't know about top notes and base notes, but I've had a lot of luck adding a little bit of a pre-blended oil to an oil blend, so I think this will go really well. And I wanted a little more earth and water just to help balance out all the fire and sun and more dynamic energy that we have with the other herbs and oils. And finally, I wanted to add a little bit, this is another favorite, you can tell it's almost gone, but I wanted to add a little bit of the expansion anointing oil also from the Witch's Moon. So I'm going to be incorporating these two blends into her blend, as well as the other ingredients here. Finally, a couple of other things. I have some eggshell. I'm going to be talking about how I'm going to be using this at the end. This is not going into her oil, but I'm going to put it in a special little extra item that I'm going to throw in there. And I have two kinds of crystals that I'm going to be incorporating. I have quartz crystal, which is just a really great one to program with an intention and put into a blend. So I'll be putting some quartz into the spray, the rollerball, and the oil. And I also have sunstone. And again, as I mentioned, with Leo as both her rising sign and her moon sign, I really wanted the sun to be represented in this oil and to have some dominance in the oil because I want it to be coded to dawn. I want it to be about dawn specifically. And if she can use this oil to amplify readings about whatever she wants, but it's going to help her readings to center on her highest good. It's going to help her tune into herself, which again, I know that's the main goal of reading for her. So sunstone is going to be incorporated into the oils as well. So I've got these here. Let's talk about, oh, this is the little, I guess I didn't need to be like subtle about it. This is a little pouch because I'm going to be making a little pouch with the herbs I'm using, the crystals I'm using, and some eggshell for protection. This is meant to be a bit of a, when oils are not working for her or she wants something that's simpler or easier, I'm going to be creating an herb sachet with all of these energies in it. And this is meant to be something that can just be placed under a pillow. It can be brought with her if she's doing something challenging and wants to bring the energy of this particular blend with her for some reason. She can use this any way she wants, but it's just meant to be kind of a dry form of the same blend that can be multi-purposed in other ways. And she could also open it up, take any of the herbs and things that are in here and add or boost other workings she wants to do with a little bit of the loose herb blend. So I'm going to be making a fair amount of the herb blend, most of which is going to go in here, and then a little bit in each of the oils. Hopefully that made sense. So lots of things we're going to be making. So again, this is probably going to be a long video. I'm probably going to do most of the actual working part on speed up with music. Okay, so I also have, let's talk about bases that things are going to go into. So for the spray, I have moon water. So I charge water in under the full moon every single month, and this is moon water that's going to be used as the base for her spray. Also for her spray, I have some isopropyl alcohol, 70%. Now in a water-based thing like a spray, you need something to kind of help keep the mixture stable for longer. You should always sniff test anything that you are working with, whether it's a spray or an oil blend, to make sure none of the oils smell like they've gone off or gone rancid at all. And alcohol is a preservative for the, or is a good thing to help lengthen the shelf life of a water-based product like a spray. It's not perfect. It won't last forever. The spray is meant to be used in a much shorter time than like an oil blend, but this alcohol will just help to extend the life of her spray a bit. Extend was the word I was looking for. Yes. So that's the alcohol. And then as the base for her oil, oh my gosh, I have fractionated coconut oil. So I have just a little bit left in my original bottle. So I have picked up a new bottle. And as an FYI, this fractionated liquid coconut oil is getting easier and easier to find. We actually found this in the organic food section of our local grocery store. And when I first was looking for fractionated coconut oil, I had to get it like online. It was really hard to find. So I'm really excited. And I actually paid about the same amount for this bottle that's 600 mils as I did for this bottle that's like not even 500 mils. So that's exciting. So this is going to be the base for her oil. Fractionated coconut oil is one of the most stable and seems to have one of the longest shelf lives of any of the oils that I've worked with as a base. Don't take my word for it. I'm not an expert. Please always research the ingredients you're going to use in your products. I also find that fractionated coconut oil is typically very gentle on skin and fairly skin friendly. It is, to me, less likely, in my experience, I have sensitive skin, it's less likely on my body to cause a reaction than a safflower oil or an olive oil or anything like that. So it's my preferred oil. Plus, I love how clear it is. So we'll be using that as the base for her oil. I have a little dropper for working with the oils, and I also have vitamin E oil. So vitamin E oil is a really wonderful preservative when you're making just an oil-based thing. So in this case, for just an oil with no water in it, vitamin E, it's an antioxidant. So it helps to prevent the oil from oxidizing or going rancid. So it's a really wonderful additive to add to any oil blend that you want to last for a bit, right? It helps to stabilize everything. Again, I'm not an expert. Please fact check, look up, research everything you do before you do it. This is just knowledge that I've acquired and I could get it wrong, right? So those are the ingredients, and there's a few other things that are going to be boosting this working. And again, I know there's a lot of things on the table, but here's the other things I'm going to be working with. First off, out of my Making Magic cards, I'm going to be holding the intention for this working with the Insight card, which says, opens the third eye to strengthen intuition. So this is the sigil that's going to be used to anchor this working. And as I mentioned, we've got a few planets involved here. So I've got Danny's Mystic Masters deck. I'm going to be using tarot cards to hold the intention for the planets that I've pulled in very intentionally to this working. I've already cheated and put them on top. So let's pull them out and I'll talk you through them. So first of all, we've pulled in Moon and Sun energy. So the energy of the moon is actually being brought in by coconut oil, which coconut as an herb is associated with the moon and the element of water. So as the base for an oil that I'm making to support divination, the fact that this herb, or this plant rather, is associated with the moon, I think was just perfect. So we wanted to bring in moon energy because, of course, working with tarot, working with divination, the moon is such a wonderful anchor for work like that. I also, as I mentioned, wanted to bring in sun energy, which I did through the cinnamon, the orange, and the sunstone. And that is to honor Dawn's rising sign of Leo and her moon sign of Leo. I also wanted to bring in the element of fire, etc. But sun and moon, the sun I wanted to bring in as well from a divination perspective, because the sun is wonderful for illumination, for bringing things into the light so that they're no longer sort of housed in shadow. And here our sun figure, who is Apollo, is holding a sun, and somebody actually pointed out during my Mystic Masters walkthrough that it looks like he's holding the sun as a mirror. And I thought that was so beautiful. So I thought these cards would be perfect for holding the attention for this blend. We've also pulled in the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is being brought in, through the sage essential oil. And I wanted Jupiter because Jupiter is associated with the Wheel of Fortune. And a lot of times, I mean, what more appropriate card for, again, divination, seeing what's happening on your personal wheel, or dealing with change that's come up, things that you may not be able to control. So we brought in Jupiter energy. The Hierophant is the card that is associated with Dawn's sun sign, which is Taurus. So the Hierophant energy is being brought in from the Rose, which is the ruling planet, is associated with Venus, the ruling planet of Taurus. So that's how I brought in that. But of course, the Venus card is the Empress. So we also have the Empress here. So we have Venus, and Venus rules over Taurus. So that is how I am associating those. Finally, and perhaps most jarringly, so again, don't fool around with this unless you feel really good about it, is the Blessed Thistle, which is associated with Mars, which Mars, of course, is our Tower card. So Mars is that very intense energy, right? It's that energy around shaking things up and getting things going. And I think it's a really empowering card when you work with it in a very intentional way. So I'm going to be working with these cards. They're going to be scattered around my workspace here while I craft the oil, again, as an intention setter and to draw in these particular energies to keep them front of mind while I'm doing the working. Okay, I think that about covers everything I have on the table, how I'm going to be using it all. If you have any questions after you've watched the whole process, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'd be really curious to see, and make sure you watch the whole thing so that by the end you can kind of see how it all comes together. I hope I've given a really good explanation so you kind of know what's going to be happening, so that as soon as I cut into the part where I'm doing the working, you can really follow along. So again, let me know if you have any questions. And to Dawn, thank you so much for doing this collab with me. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait to share the finished result, and I can't wait until you have it in your hands and can actually put it to work. So definitely let me know how it works out for you. Thank you so much. We're going to dive in now to the working itself. So just a quick note here, actually, I realized as I was setting everything up that I had forgotten one of the card's energies that I very intentionally brought in, and that was with the lavender oil. I had brought in Mercury. Mercury is associated with the Magician. So I have one card here that was absent. I had forgotten that. I'd put it in my planning and forgot to go over it with you. So we're going to pull out the Magician. The Magician is, of course, a wonderful card to pull in for any kind of manifestation work, which, of course, a lot of times our tarot readings are about crafting our own reality. So as I was just getting the ingredients ready, I realized, wait, I have Mercury in here. What's going on? So I just wanted to update you guys on what was happening with that. So I'm putting the rose here on the Empress, but of course Empress is the ruler of the Hierophant or of Taurus. So anyways, we're going to get back into setting up, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew why I pulled out the Magician. All right, here we go. Okay, so as you can see, I was here for quite a while. There was a few things that I wanted to point out. One of which was that I had left out the rose, which was the herb I said was associated with Venus, who is the ruler of Taurus. Taurus is Dawn's sun sign. And I had reserved the rose to use at the very end because I wanted to make the blend around all of these other energies and then really pull in that rose as the final touch. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I played with the scents of the different essential oils until it had those notes of orange and lavender really sitting at that first top, I don't know top note, but that first main scent that you smell. And yeah, it's exactly where I wanted it to be that way. I don't ultimately know, and this is the thing whenever you make a surprise blend for somebody, you don't ultimately know, A, if they have any sensitivities to anything. You don't know if the scent is going to be what they want. And so I'm really just focusing mostly on the energy. And so I pulled in all of these different energies. Just to recap, we pulled in Mars and the Tower, Jupiter and the Wheel, Venus and the Empress, the Moon for the High Priestess, the Sun and the Sun, the Hierophant, Taurus, and the Magician, which was Mercury, excuse me. I had a little brain hiccup there for a moment. I put the eggshells only in this sachet, which is meant to offer more protective energy in general. I didn't want to put the eggshells in any of the blends because I don't know how eggshell would react with the alcohol in the water or with the oil. But I do know that herbs typically stabilize pretty well in oil from my own blends in the past. Instead of making just the mother oil and then taking that out and putting it in the roller ball, I made these blends simultaneously. I typically do my oils that way when I'm going to do a roller ball, and that means there are some subtle differences between the two oils as far as exact recipes. As you can see, I kind of move through everything fairly intuitively as far as how much to put in of this or of that. I almost forgot the vitamin E in these two oils, and I think I had just finished the rose, or I put it in just before the rose. I can't remember now, but I'd almost forgotten the vitamin E. So I'm glad I remembered to get that in there because that will help to keep these oils from oxidizing or from going rancid. So will these darker bottles. So as much as the more clear bottles are prettier, I do find that these do better at keeping the oils stable. So I'm glad I picked these amber bottles up. The sachet, if you'll notice when I got to the part where I was working with just the final bit of dry herb, I added a lot of rose to the end of the herbal blend, and you'll notice that I also added in some of the oils that I used in, or all of the oils actually that I had used in the oil blends, and I added them to the dry herbs. In my experience, a little bit of oil added to dry herb, especially in a bag like this that I know will let them breathe and finish drying out, it just helps to carry those extra aromas of that oil blend and carry the energies as well. I did knot this pretty thoroughly, but if Dawn wants to open this up and use these herbs in another project, in a blend or whatever, she can do that, or she can hang this somewhere as a protective charm for her divination, or she can put it near her in divination. And this is, I wanted to include this because for all I know, Dawn may be sensitive to all of these oils as far as putting them on her skin or like anointing candles or things with them. So just in case, I wanted her to have something that could be a charm to be nearby her space and have all of the same energy, and she wouldn't have to handle or touch the herbs or the oils. And worst case scenario, once this dries out or if it's put in the freezer for a little while, its scent will be much diminished. So if even the scent is too strong, she can still work with this. I just wanted her to have something, even if it turned out that these oils were a problem in some way. So it's just a great way to add a little bit of extra. And absolutely worst case, we have charged crystals in here. So we have 2 chunky sunstones in this big bottle, 2 very chunky sunstones in the spray, 2 little bitty sunstones in the roller ball, and a quartz in every single one of these. And we also have 2 sunstones and a quartz in here. And the crystals themselves have also been charged alongside all of the herbs, which means that if worst case, all of this has to go in the trash as far as the contents go, Dawn Michelle can still harvest those crystals and use those crystals in her practice. So it's kind of like meant to be a bit of a catch-all, so that no matter how it all plays out, there's something usable for her at the end. I have to say I absolutely loved using Danny's Mystic Masters for my spell work here. It made such a beautiful anchor point for me to constantly be looking at these images and thinking about what I was doing. I don't know if you noticed. But what I was doing is I was storing the oils with their corresponding cards or the herbs or whatever, so that every time I reached for this herb or this oil, I was thinking High Priestess, or I was thinking Jupiter, right? Or excuse me, the wheel, or I was thinking Jupiter. Same thing with the moon and the coconut oil, the sun and the herbs. The Hierophant, I just kept looking at him overall, and I kind of liked that I had my my oil over here with the Magician. Excuse me, the Empress. I'm so fried, you guys. This has been quite an afternoon. I was actually here for quite some time. Of course, it's on speed up, and you guys don't see the bits that are cut out, but it was really nice to use these as anchor points as I was pulling ingredients and putting them back. It just helped to keep me really focused, and I feel like with these colors on the table, anyways, I'm gushing. Regardless, I really enjoyed using this for that purpose, so I think this will probably end up being my go-to deck for magical work like this. It just felt really potent. I'm trying to think if there's anything I ended up doing that I didn't explain beforehand, and I don't think that there is. So if you're watching this and you're curious about any of the steps I took or any of the ways that I used things or the things that I did, leave that in the comments down below. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do like to keep the actual working itself private. So a lot of times I speak words of power over different steps, and a lot of that is very personal, and I just want to keep it that part private. But I am really pleased with how this all turned out. Another step that I take, which I'm not able to show it on camera, is once I'm done with the initial blending of oils and putting things in, my hands are messy, the bottles are messy, I always wash them in soap and water. And I do use a special sage soap that I got from a friend that I met at Newt's and who lives locally. She's got a beautiful soap called Smudge Off. It's Michelle at EO Chakra Products. You can check out her Etsy shop. But I like using her smudge soap to wash off any oil residues that are on the outsides of the bottles before I finish them up. So I always do that step. It's a really nice way to make sure that things aren't kind of going to their destination all slimy. So my next challenge is going to be to wrap these very, very carefully in sealed bags and things like that, just in case of leakage in transit. But I have a feeling these are going to travel pretty well. So these are going to be going out to Don Michelle, but everything's going to be very, as I said, well protected in a box. And my deck is going to be traveling with these, so you know I'm going to be extra careful because this is my out of print deck. So everything's going to be sealed up and kept separate and all that good stuff. So it will probably be excessive and not very pretty when Dawn opens it up, just so you know, because I don't know if she's going to unbox it on her video on camera or what. But anyways, thank you so much for coming along with this process. And Dawn, thank you so much for trimming my copy of the Mythic Tarot. I'm so excited to see what you do with it. And I hope that this serves your highest good, Dawn. That was the entire intent behind it. And I hope it can boost and make a little bit more of a sacred space for you when you're doing readings for yourself. So everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, click the little thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new here and want to see more witchy and tarot related content. Definitely be sure and click the little bell so you're notified of all my future videos. If you would like to book a reading, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye guys.